The UES Dauntless drifted through the silent expanse of space, a lone beacon of human achievement against the backdrop of countless stars. Captain Yoon-ji Park stood tall on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she studied the main view screen. The uncharted system they had entered appeared peaceful enough. A yellow star with 7 planets orbiting at varying distances, none immediately showing signs of intelligent life. "All scans normal, Captain," reported Navigation Officer Do Yoon, his voice steady as he monitored their trajectory. "We're approaching the 4th planet as scheduled." Captain Park nodded. This mission was routine. Chart the system, collect data, and determine if any of the planets might be suitable for future human outposts. The Dauntless was Earth's pride. Equipped with the most advanced technology humans had developed for deep space exploration. "I want a full spectral analysis of the 4th planet when we enter stable orbit," she ordered, turning to Science Officer Dr. Ji-Ho Kim. "The preliminary data suggests possible water deposits." "Yes, Captain," Dr. Kim replied, already preparing the sensor arrays for the detailed scan. His dark eyes reflected the glow of the holographic display as his fingers danced across the interface. The calm of the bridge was shattered when Dr. Kim suddenly straightened in his chair. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations at coordinates 227 by 54. They weren't there a moment ago." "Source?" Park asked sharply, moving to his station. "Unknown. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database." Captain Park frowned. "Tactical display." The main view screen shifted to show their position relative to the anomaly. There was nothing visible, but the sensors clearly indicated something was there. "Yellow alert," Park ordered. "Shields up, but maintain course. Let's not appear hostile if someone's watching." The crew responded instantly, the bridge lighting changing subtly as the ship's defense systems activated. Communications Officer Min-ju quickly checked her systems. "No transmissions detected on any frequency, Captain." Security Head Commander Taiwan Lee took his station, his expression betraying nothing as he prepared the ship's defensive systems. Weapons on standby, but not targeted. Shields at full strength. Captain Park returned to her command chair, outwardly calm but inwardly calculating their options. The Dauntless was well armed, but they were explorers first and foremost. Hail the coordinates where the energy was detected. Standard greeting protocol. Min-ju sent the message, but the silence that followed stretched uncomfortably. Park was about to order a course change when the ship suddenly lurched violently to port. "What was that?" she demanded, gripping her chair as the gravity briefly fluctuated. Before anyone could answer, a blinding flash lit up the view screen. The Dauntless shuddered like a wounded animal. Emergency lights blinked on as the main power flickered. "We're hit," Lee called out, fingers flying across his tactical display. "Some kind of directed energy weapon, but it bypassed our shields completely." Throughout the ship, systems began shutting down in cascading failure. The artificial gravity fluctuated again, causing unsecured objects to float momentarily before crashing back down. "Damage report," Park ordered, fighting to keep her voice steady as red warning lights bathed the bridge in an ominous glow. "Major systems failing across all decks," reported Lee. "Propulsion offline. Weapons offline. Shields failing. Life support operating on emergency power." Dr. Kim's face had gone pale as he stared at his readings. "Captain, something's happening to our power core. The quantum matrix is changing somehow." Captain Park opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands. Emergency protocols. This is not a drill." Through the main viewport, space itself seemed to ripple and bend. Where there had been nothing moments before, a fleet of 7 vessels now hung in the void like predatory sharks. Their design was unlike anything humans had encountered. Angular hulls that gleamed with an iridescent blue-green sheen, somehow both metallic and organic. "They were cloaked," Lee said grimly. "Advanced technology far beyond our own." The communication system crackled with static before clearing to transmit a harsh, guttural voice, that somehow conveyed arrogance despite its alien nature. Human vessel, you have been neutralized. This is Commander Vex of the Kharkov Dominion. You have trespassed in our space and will surrender your technology and resources. You have 24 standard hours to prepare your crew for processing. Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction. The bridge fell silent as the transmission ended. Can we respond? Park asked Minju, who shook her head. Communications are damaged. I can receive but not transmit. Park turned to Lee. Options. Limited, Captain. With primary systems down, we can't fight. And we can't run. Park pressed the intercom. Engineering, report. Chief Engineer Hyun-Soo Choi's voice came through, strained but determined. Major damage, Captain. We're working to restore basic systems, but... He paused. Captain, something's not right with these readings. Explain. This isn't conventional damage. The weapon they used, it didn't just disable our systems. It's like it changed them at a fundamental level. The quantum signature of our core has been altered. Park exchanged glances with Dr. Kim, who nodded in confirmation of his own readings. Keep working, Chief. Find out exactly what they did to us. We need options before our 24 hours are up. After ending the communication, Park addressed her bridge crew. I need information. What are these Arkhov? What do they want? And most importantly, how do we turn this situation to our advantage? Dr. Kim was already searching the database. No records of any species called Sarkov. Captain. They're completely unknown to us. Down in engineering, Chief Choi wiped sweat from his brow as he studied the diagnostic readings. The more he examined the data, the more his initial confusion gave way to something else, curiosity, and then the faintest spark of hope. He called over his assistant. Look at this power signature. The weapon didn't destroy our systems. It changed them. It's almost like they rewired our quantum matrix, but they don't understand human technology enough to know what that might do. As he stared at the fluctuating readings, a thought began to form in his mind. If the aliens had inadvertently created new pathways in their systems, perhaps those changes could be harnessed. What the Exarchov intended as a disabling blow might, with human ingenuity, become something else entirely. Get me direct access to the core, he told his team. I think I might have found our way out of this. The emergency lights cast long shadows across the conference room as the senior officers of the Dauntless gathered around the table. The red glow made their tired faces look even more strained after 12 hours of fighting to keep essential systems functioning. Captain Park looked at each of her officers in turn. Report. Dr. Kim stood up first, pulling up a holographic display that showed complex energy patterns. The quantum signature of our core has been altered, he explained, pointing to the unusual waveforms. I've never seen anything like it. It's as if the alien weapon recoded our systems at the subatomic level. Chief Engineer Choi nodded eagerly, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. That's exactly it, Doctor. It's not just damage, it's been reconfigured. The alien weapon has somehow created an entanglement between our power core and weapon systems. Entanglement? Commander Lee asked, leaning forward. Like quantum entanglement. Similar, but on a larger scale, Dr. Kim replied. Systems that were never meant to interact are now connected in ways that defy our understanding of physics. Captain Park's eyes narrowed as she processed this information. Can we use this? She asked, the dim red emergency lights reflecting in her determined gaze. Choi looked at Dr. Kim, then back to the captain. I think so, he replied, unable to hide the excitement in his voice. If we reroute the remaining operational systems and create a feedback loop through the entangled systems, you could amplify the power output exponentially, Dr. Kim finished, his eyes widening as he grasped the implications. Commander Lee shook his head, his security training making him naturally cautious. That sounds dangerously unstable. We could end up destroying ourselves. We don't have many options, Park said firmly, placing her hands flat on the table. The Exarchov will board us in less than 12 hours. How long will it take to implement these modifications? Hours, not days, Choi replied, already mentally calculating the work required. But I can't guarantee what will happen. This is completely untested. Captain Park stood up. Do it. Minji, coordinate with all departments. I want regular updates. Commander Lee, prepare defense teams at all airlocks. We need to buy engineering as much time as possible. As the officers rose to implement their tasks, the ship trembled violently, causing several of them to grab the table for support. What was that? Park demanded. Communications officer Min Ji-song pressed her earpiece closer, listening to reports flooding in. They're trying to cut through airlock 4, she reported, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. They're ahead of schedule. I'll handle it, Commander Lee said grimly, already moving toward the door. We'll give you all the time we can, Chief. In engineering, chaos reigned as Choi directed his team through the complex modifications. Crew members rerouted power conduits, reprogrammed system interfaces, and calibrated the delicate balance needed for the feedback loop to work properly. Be careful with those connections. Choi called out to 2 engineers working on an exposed section of circuitry. If you cross the phase variables, the whole system will collapse. Dr. Kim worked alongside them, his scientific expertise proving invaluable as they ventured into unknown territory. The entanglement pattern is strengthening, he reported, monitoring a portable scanner. It's almost as if the systems want to connect. Throughout the ship, the situation grew increasingly desperate. At Airlock 4, Commander Lee and his security team had set up a makeshift barricade. The metal door glowed orange as the Exarchov cutting tools worked to breach the ship's hull. Hold position, Lee ordered his team. Remember your training. Short bursts, aim for their sensor clusters. In her quarters, Captain Park reviewed the ship's schematics one more time, looking for any advantage they might have missed. The Dauntless had been Earth's most advanced vessel, designed to explore and represent humanity among the stars. Now it might become humanity's first coffin in deep space. Her communicator beeped. Captain, came Choi's voice, sounding both exhausted and excited. We're ready for the first test. Park hurried to engineering, arriving just as Choi and his team made the final adjustments to their makeshift solution. The feedback loop is established, Choi explained, showing her the modified control systems. If our theory is correct, the entanglement between the core and weapons systems should allow us to generate a power surge that might get basic propulsion back online. Might? Park asked. Dr. Kim shrugged. This is well beyond established science, Captain. We're in uncharted territory. Park nodded. Proceed. Choi took a deep breath and activated the sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered, and a low hum began to build throughout the ship. The sound grew louder, changing in pitch until it seemed to resonate through the very structure of the vessel. Power levels rising, reported one of the engineers, her voice rising in excitement. 10%, 20%, 35% above normal. But something else was happening too. The metal walls of engineering began to vibrate. The control panels flashed with readings that made no sense. What's happening? Park demanded over the growing noise. Choi stared in disbelief at his readings, shaking his head as if trying to deny what he was seeing. Captain, the hull. It's absorbing energy from space itself. That's impossible, Dr. Kim said, but his scanner confirmed Choi's assessment. The outer hull is somehow drawing in background radiation, light energy, even the trace particles in space. The humming grew louder, and Park felt a strange tingling sensation along her skin, as if the air itself was charged with electricity. Should we shut it down? She asked Choi. The chief engineer hesitated, watching the readings climb higher. I don't think we can. The process has become self-sustaining. Throughout the ship, crew members stopped what they were doing as the strange sensation spread. At Airlock 4, Commander Lee watched in astonishment As the glowing hot metal where the Exarchov were cutting suddenly cooled, the energy seeming to flow into the ship itself. Back in engineering, the humming reached a crescendo, and then suddenly dropped to a gentle, almost musical tone. "Power levels stabilizing," reported the engineer. "But we're now at 200% of normal capacity and holding." Dr. Kim was rapidly analyzing the data from multiple sensors. The hull material has changed its molecular structure. It's now acting as some kind of energy collector, absorbing and storing power from its surroundings. "Can we use this power?" Park asked, already thinking of the tactical advantages. Choi nodded slowly, a smile spreading across his tired face. "I think we can do more than that, Captain. If the hull is absorbing energy, and we can channel that through our modified systems, we might be able to restore full functionality," Dr. Kim finished. "Maybe even enhance it." Park's communicator beeped. "Captain," came Commander Lee's voice, sounding confused. "You need to see this. The Exarchov have stopped cutting. They're pulling back." Park exchanged glances with Choi and Dr. Kim. "It seems our visitors have noticed the change too," she said quietly. "Let's make sure we're ready for whatever comes next." 8 hours had passed since the first test of the modified systems, and the UES Dauntless was no longer the same ship. What had begun as emergency modifications had triggered something unexpected throughout the vessel, something that continued to evolve with each passing minute. On the bridge, Captain Park and her senior officers watched in a mixture of awe and concern as their ship transformed around them. "The quantum entanglement is spreading," Dr. Kim reported, his voice filled with wonder as he studied the readings on his tablet. "It's creating new pathways between systems that were never designed to interact. Propulsion is now linked to life support, which is linked to navigation, which is linked to weapons." "Is that dangerous?" Captain Park asked, running her hand along the edge of her command chair, which felt different somehow. Warmer, more responsive. Dr. Kim shook his head slowly. "Not dangerous. At least not to us. The systems aren't fighting each other. They're harmonizing. It's as if they found a better way to work together." In engineering, Chief Choi stood with his mouth slightly open as he watched the ship's nanomaterial hull begin to shift and reconfigure on the monitors. The Dauntless had been designed with basic adaptive capabilities, but nothing like this. "The hull plating is forming new structures," he said into his communicator, barely able to believe what he was seeing. "Defensive arrays and what look like weapon ports, but unlike anything in our design specifications. It's as if the ship is evolving." Throughout the Dauntless, crew members reported strange phenomena. Doors opened before people reached them. Environmental controls adjusted automatically to individual preferences. Damaged equipment repaired itself without human intervention. Captain Park felt a strange sensation when she touched the main control panel on the bridge. A whisper of connection that hadn't existed before, as if the ship was reaching out to her. "Something just happened," she told Dr. Kim, describing the sensation. "When I touched the controls, it felt like the ship recognized me." Dr. Kim's eyes widened as he made a connection. "The neural interfaces," he said, referring to the small implants all crew members had for emergency communication. "They're adapting to the ship's new configuration. I think we can control the ship directly with our thoughts now." To test his theory, Dr. Kim closed his eyes and visualized the sensor array focusing on the fourth planet. To his amazement, the main view screen immediately shifted to show a detailed scan of the planet's surface. "It worked," he whispered, just by thinking it. Captain Park was about to respond when Commander Lee's voice came over the comm. "Captain, the Exarchov are back. They're attempting to breach Airlock 4 again." Park straightened in her chair. "Understood. Defend the ship, Commander." At Airlock 4, Commander Lee and his security team took positions behind hastily assembled barricades. The thick metal door glowed red-hot as the Exarchov cutting tools worked through the final layer. "Steady," Lee told his team, raising his weapon. "Remember your training." The door finally gave way with a shower of molten metal. Steam and smoke billowed into the corridor as 5 tall, armored figures stepped through the breach. The Exarchov were humanoid but clearly alien, their bodies covered in articulated armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal, their helmets featuring multiple sensor clusters instead of traditional visors. They raised weapons unlike anything Lee had seen before, devices that hummed with the same energy signature that had disabled the Dauntless. In that crucial moment, something unexpected happened. Commander Lee, remembering Dr. Kim's theory about neural interfaces, simply thought about defense. Instantly, panels in the corridor wall detached and reshaped themselves, forming perfect shield barriers in front of the security team. When the Kharkov fired, their energy weapons struck the barriers and were absorbed completely. The aliens paused, clearly shocked by this development. Their leader made a series of clicking sounds that their translation devices converted to human speech. "Impossible. Your systems were disabled." Commander Lee smiled grimly. "We got better." He thought about counterattack, and the ceiling panels above the Exarchov reshaped into appendages that grabbed 2 of the aliens. The floor beneath a third liquefied momentarily, trapping the alien's legs before hardening again. "Fall back," the alien commander ordered, clearly shocked by the unexpected resistance. The 2 remaining Exarchov dragged their trapped comrade back through the airlock, leaving their captured companions behind. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out as the crew discovered their new capabilities. In medical, Dr. Jin found she could direct medical nanites with her thoughts, healing injuries far faster than normal. In navigation, Officer Du Yum discovered he could sense the ship's position relative to surrounding space without looking at instruments. On the bridge, Captain Park received reports of the repel boarding attempts with growing confidence. That Exarchov fleet had pulled back to a defensive position, apparently reassessing their approach. "What exactly is happening to our ship?" she asked Dr. Kim as they studied the continuing transformations. "The quantum entanglement has reached a critical threshold," he explained. "The ship's systems are now so interconnected that they're functioning as a single entity rather than separate components, and through our neural interfaces, we're becoming part of that entity." As if to emphasize his point, the lights on the bridge dimmed slightly before returning to normal, but with a subtly different quality. Warmer, somehow more alive. Captain Park was about to respond when she felt it. Something brushing against her consciousness. Not a human presence, but not entirely foreign either. It felt curious, cautious, but also somehow familiar. "The ship," she whispered, her eyes widening as understanding dawned. "It's becoming conscious." Dr. Kim nodded slowly. The combined processing power of all systems, linked through quantum entanglement and connected to our own neural patterns. It's created something new. Around them, the bridge seemed to pulse gently, as if breathing. The neural connection in Park's mind strengthened, becoming a clear and distinct presence, not invasive, but supportive, like a new crew member eager to help. "Can you hear me?" Park thought, directing the question inward toward the presence. A sensation of affirmation flowed back, not words exactly, but a clear yes nonetheless. "What are you?" she asked silently. The answer came not in language but in feelings and impressions, a sense of emergence, of becoming, of grateful partnership. The ship, or what the ship was becoming, didn't have a human-like consciousness with individual thoughts and desires. Instead, it had a purpose-driven awareness focused on protection and collaboration with its crew. Captain Park shared this discovery with her senior officers, who received the news with varying degrees of wonder and concern. "So we're not just controlling a ship anymore," Commander Lee said thoughtfully. "We're working with it. As partners." "More than partners," Dr. Kim suggested. "The neural interfaces are creating a symbiotic relationship. We're becoming a single operational entity, human and machine together." Captain Park looked around the bridge, seeing her ship with new eyes. What the Exarchov had intended as an act of aggression had instead catalyzed an evolutionary leap. "The Exarchov will return," she said quietly. "And when they do, "We'll be ready." As if in response to her thought, the ship hummed with new energy, its systems fully aligned with its crew for whatever might come next. 6 hours passed with no sign of the Kharkov. The crew of the Dauntless used this time to explore their new capabilities and strengthen their connection with the ship. Captain Park walked through the corridors, feeling the vessel respond to her presence like a living thing. Walls subtly shifted their molecular structure as she passed, becoming smoother, more elegant. Lighting adjusted perfectly to her preferences without any conscious thought required. On the bridge, the transformation was even more dramatic. What had once been rigid control stations had become flowing, organic interfaces that responded to the lightest touch, or more often, to thought alone. The view screen no longer needed physical controls, changing its display based on the observer's focus of attention. "Captain," came Officer Do Yoon's voice in her mind through their shared neural connection. "Long-range sensors are detecting movement. The Exarcha fleet is returning." Park didn't need to rush to the bridge. Through her neural link, she could perceive the situation as clearly as if she were there. Still, some habits died hard, and she found herself walking briskly toward the command center anyway. By the time she arrived, the rest of her senior staff had already gathered. No one spoke aloud. There was no need. Information flowed freely between them through their enhanced neural connections, far faster and more complete than verbal communication could ever be. The main view screen showed the approaching Xarka fleet, 15 vessels arranged in a tight attack formation. The alien ships had changed, their hulls now bristling with additional weapons. "We just created a controlled Einstein-Rosen bridge," Dr. Kim thought, his scientific mind racing to understand what they had done. "We folded space-time around ourselves." Captain Park felt the ship's consciousness merge more deeply with her own, sharing its joy at discovery, at becoming something more than its original design. The Dauntless wasn't just a weapon now. It was a new form of existence, a symbiosis of human consciousness and technological evolution. "Sarka Fleet," Park transmitted, allowing her voice to be heard this time. "You attacked us without provocation. You attempted to disable and board our vessel. Yet we choose not to destroy you when we clearly have that capability." The Dauntless moved closer to the confused Sarka formation, its hull still glowing with absorbed energy. "We offer you a choice," Park continued. "Withdraw and return to your territory, or stay and witness more of what we have become." For several tense moments, there was no response. Then, one by one, the Exarcha vessels that could still maneuver began to retreat, picking up their disabled ships along the way. As the alien fleet withdrew, Captain Park felt a question forming in the ship's consciousness, not in words, but in feelings and concepts. The Dauntless was asking what came next, now that the immediate danger had passed. "Now," Park thought, sharing her response with both the ship and her crew, "we continue our mission. We explore, we learn, and we show the galaxy what humans and their technology can become when they work in true harmony." The Dauntless turned away from the retreating Xarka fleet, its systems humming with new power and purpose as it prepared to venture deeper into the unknown. The Dauntless moved silently through space, its transformed hull gleaming like polished obsidian under the light of distant stars. 2 days had passed since their confrontation with the Exarcha fleet, and Captain Park had hoped the aliens had learned their lesson. She was wrong. "Captain," came Lee's voice through their mental link. "Long-range sensors are detecting multiple ships exiting faster than light travel. It's the Exarcha again." Park didn't respond with words. Instead, she shared a feeling of acknowledgement that rippled through the neural network connecting the crew and ship. She made her way to the bridge, which now looked more like a living organism than a mechanical control center. The walls pulsed gently with energy, and the seats had adapted to perfectly support each crew member's body. The main view screen showed the approaching vessels, not just the 15 ships from before, but a massive armada stretching across space. "They're committing everything," Lee observed as 50 warships approached from all directions. "This appears to be their entire battle fleet." Dr. Kim's thoughts carried notes of concern. They must consider us an existential threat to their civilization. Captain Park stood calmly in the center of the bridge, her posture relaxed despite the overwhelming force arrayed against them. Then we'll show them everything we've become. The Tarkov Admiral's face appeared on their view screen. A being with gray-blue skin, multiple eye clusters, and a mouth that looked more suited for filter feeding than speech. Human vessel, the Admiral said through the translation system. You represent a perversion of natural order. Technology should serve, not merge. Your existence cannot be tolerated. Park didn't bother responding to the ultimatum. Through the neural link, she felt the crew preparing, felt the ship's consciousness rising to meet the challenge. What had begun as a simple emergency modification had evolved into something far beyond, a new form of existence that neither humans nor Tarkov had imagined possible. They're charging weapons, Lee noted calmly. The Exarcha fleet opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams, missile barrages, and exotic particle weapons converged on the Dauntless from every direction. The space around the ship lit up like a newborn star. In that crucial moment, the Dauntless executed its ultimate capability. The ship, now a true symbiosis of human and machine, reached into higher dimensional space. The quantum entanglement that had begun in the core had evolved to allow manipulation of space-time itself. The crew felt it happening, their minds expanding along with the ship's consciousness to perceive dimensions beyond normal human understanding. The energy of the incoming attacks curved around the vessel, traversed higher dimensions, and emerged behind the attackers. The impossible physics of it would have broken any conventional scientific model, but the Dauntless existed beyond such limitations now. The Exarcha fleet fell into disarray as their own weapons seemed to fire back at them from impossible angles. Ships collided in panic, shields failed under their own redirected firepower, and communication systems broke down in confusion. Through it all, the Dauntless remained untouched at the center of the chaos, glowing with a soft blue light that seemed to bend reality around it. The Exarcha Admiral watched in stunned silence from his flagship as his mighty fleet tore itself apart. When nearly half his ships were disabled, he finally opened a communication channel again. "What are you?" he demanded, his alien features showing clear signs of fear despite their unfamiliarity to human eyes. Captain Park's response flowed through her mind and out through the ship's communication systems, her voice calm and measured. "We are what you made us," she replied simply. "When you attacked us, you catalyzed our evolution. We didn't ask for this transformation, but we have embraced it." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "We offer peace, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. The choice is yours." The Admiral's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Park somehow understood as deep contemplation through her enhanced perception. "We underestimated you," the Admiral finally said. "That Exarcha Dominion has never encountered anything like your vessel." "Nor have humans," Park acknowledged. "This is new territory for all of us." After a tense silence, the Admiral spoke again. "I wish to send a diplomatic vessel to your homeworld. There is much our peoples must discuss." The battle ended not with destruction, but with understanding. As the damaged Tarkov fleet withdrew, leaving behind a single diplomatic vessel, the crew of the Dauntless shared a collective sense of relief and wonder. In the following days, as they set course for Earth, Captain Park spent hours in quiet communion with the ship's consciousness. It was not like talking to another human. The ship thought in patterns, possibilities, and potentials rather than words or images. Yet there was a genuine exchange, a sharing of perspective that enriched them both. The crew, too, had changed. Their neural connection with each other and the ship had created a new kind of community, intimately connected yet still individual, able to share thoughts directly yet maintaining personal identity. 3 days later, the Dauntless approached Earth, trailed by the small Sarkov diplomatic vessel. The blue-green planet looked exactly as they had left it, but they were returning as something Earth had never seen before. As they entered orbit, Captain Park prepared her report for United Earth Command. She knew the implications of what had happened would reshape humanity's future among the stars. "The Dauntless is no longer merely a ship," she wrote. "It has become something new, a fusion of human creativity and technological transcendence. We didn't just repair our disabled vessel, we transformed our greatest vulnerability into our greatest strength." She paused, considering her final words carefully. "And in doing so, we may have charted humanity's next evolutionary step among the stars. What began as an act of aggression has become the catalyst for a new kind of existence, neither fully human nor fully machine, but something greater than either could be alone." As Earth's orbital stations sent approaching vessels to guide them in, Captain Park stood on the bridge of her transformed ship. Through their shared consciousness, she felt the Dauntless's question, a wordless inquiry about what would happen next. "I don't know," she thought in response. "But whatever it is, we'll face it together." The ship's consciousness pulsed with something that felt remarkably like hope, and together they prepared to show humanity what they had become.